Hey, hey, hey.
Hello.
Hello. Here we are back again for more fun times. A very quick introduction of ourselves. I'm Eliza Simpson, a New York City-based dialect and speech coach and content creator and coach for BoldVoice.
And I'm Josh Feliciano Sanchez Moser. And I too am a dialect coach and an actor, and a coach at BoldVoice, and excited to spend another Friday with you.
Yay, Fridays. So today's questions, they're ones that come up a lot, I think. The first question is, what words should I be learning?
Mm-hmm. This is a good one. All of the words is not the answer you want.
It's not.
So let's be more specific. I think the most commonly used words are a good place to start. And you can do a really simple Google search, 100 most common English words, 300 most common English words. You will get lists that have some variety, but there will be words in common across those lists. And I think those are a really great place to start because they often include things like the articles, a and the. They also include like really common prepositions, really common nouns and verbs. And so that's a great place to start. And then you can build from there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big lover of the Merriam-Webster.com website,
Mhm.
in that they have the most commonly searched words.
Yes,
Yeah, and those
brilliant.
that's different. That's a little bit of a different vibe. I think your recommendation is better, because that's use, right? That's practicality. Um,
Yeah.
but if you go to the Merriam-Webster.com website, you'll find the words that are in use that people are unsure about.
Mhm.
And that includes L1 speakers, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think another really good place to start is industry specific words. So like Eliza, you and I are in the entertainment industry. And so we work on another language, on acquiring another language. I really want to know those words like that I need to use for entertainment industry purposes. What do you call an actor? What do you call a director? What's a film set? I want to learn those industry specific tools, industry specific words, because I'm not going to necessarily encounter those just in like regular lessons acquiring the language, right? Unless I'm with a teacher who's also from that industry.
That
Right?
is a
So
focal point. That's so wise to sort of get jargon.
yeah.
Um, so jargon is also just fantastic. And
Mm-hmm.
this seems like a perfect time for a trick tip, a hack. I have a hack that I'm gonna steal from the entertainment industry, by the way.
Perfect. We
When
love a hack.
I have a hack, I have a hack. When I'm working with a performer and they have to audition for a role as a person who uses industry specific speech, perhaps they're a doctor or they're a lawyer, or they're a spy, but they have very specific jargon. One of the hacks that I always employ with them is to isolate the terms that they don't know, right? So they go through the script and they highlight, let's say, this jargon word, data mining.
Mm-hmm.
Data mining. Now you can look it up, which you should.
Yeah.
You should understand the meaning of it. But when they perform it, it's important for them to seem like an expert. And an expert doesn't treat jargon with, care.
Carefully, yeah.
They treat jargon very casually. So
Mm-hmm.
when you take the first step that Josh recommended and you learn the industry specific words, learn their meaning, and then when you employ them, try putting your focus on the words around them rather than stressing data mining when you're in a
Mhm.
conversation, try stressing the words around it, like, oh, some really intense data mining was going on there. Or
Yeah.
we're doing data mining for the next 3 weeks. So it's going to be, a lot of work.
Yeah.
Makes you seem like somebody who's very comfortable with said jargon.
Mhm. I love that. I love that because it's a super easy kind of hack to remember in a sentence. If you're in a meeting with your boss, it's like, yeah, we've got data mining for the next 3 weeks is a great way to like seem really confident and comfortable and like on topic, you know what you're talking about. I really love that.
Yeah, it's all in the
I'm
mix.
borrowing that.
Indeed. It's for the world.
Mhm.
Well, our follow-up question is that what are the most common mistakes that give away a non-native speaker?
Mm.
And how do you feel about this, Josh?
Mm.
I find the content of this question loaded.
Yeah. I do too, because we could spend like a whole live session just unpacking the concept of a mistake in language.
Mhm.
Like maybe the intent, I'm not going to say this, but like we could go down a rabbit hole here is what I will say.
We could.
And I was about to, and so I'm
Yes.
stopping myself. I do think I understand though the heart of this, and there is, I think, a slight fear or anxiety when you're working in a second language, that you'll be perceived in a specific way as less competent, as less intelligent, as less expert, because you don't have a full handle on the structure of the language, right? Even if you're like PhD level smart in your L1, right? So there's that side of it, and I think the other part of this question that I'm thinking about is, well, do you have thoughts before I keep going?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll jump in there as well. Yeah. Common mistakes is a loaded term. For practicality, you're moving through your day. You have to qualify things as
Yeah.
things that match the pattern of the speakers around me, so correct, and things that are outside of that pattern and kind of mark me as outside of that pattern by making them incorrect.
Right.
Right. So yes, so it's all about patterns. It's all about context. And sorry.
I was just going to say, like, idiomatic expressions, for example.
Mhm.
If you are in a certain part of the US, bless your heart is a beautiful idiomatic expression that is an L1 English phrase that is correct for a specific region and marks you as being from that region. And so if you acquire that and then try to use it everywhere in the United States, thinking that, oh, this is correct, right? This is not a mistake, this is a correct idiomatic expression, it will still like kind of mark you as being from a certain region of the country. And so I'm really interested in this like idea of correctness and it being really, really tied to the location that you're in and it being specific. And it can change the idea of what is correct. It can change from community to community, even among first language speakers of the same language.
Absolutely.
And my other thought, which I think we can pivot to for a little bit, is that it depends on what your first language is, right? Because there are some speakers of some languages that don't have articles in their grammatic structure. And so then sometimes they don't necessarily use the articles in English. And so that we'll catch that in our English L1 ears. Oh, they didn't say I'm going to the store. They said I'm going to store,
Right.
for example, right? So I think it's also dependent on your L1, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think what you and I are possibly both, tiptoeing around is that in this question, there is the phrasing, what are the most common mistakes that give away a non-native speaker? And in that question is the inherent concept that you should hide the fact that you're a non-native speaker.
Right.
Right.
Why hide it?
Why hide?
Why hide it? I understand the impulse with the there's a little bit of a anxiety or fear, there, which I empathize with. And also,
right. Well, it's easy to, because negative reaction is real. That's, accent bias is real.
yes.
Language prejudice is real. All of that is experienced and, quantified. There's, the data is there.
Yeah.
So perhaps this question makes me want to talk about reframing these kind of correct parts of language as patterns, that as a language learner or an accent learner, what you can observe around you are the patterns that the speakers use, native speakers use for communication. And then you can say, oh, that is, if I include this piece of the puzzle, it's gonna make that person understand me more easily. That way, with that frame, if you leave out something that helps you be better understood, you're still communicating. It's just like it's a muffin, not a cupcake. You know what I mean? It's like, it's still a great thing. It just hasn't got that frosting on top, which makes it extra great.
Yeah.
I would say that the most common patterns that kind of get learned the last are, like you said, articles, contractions.
Yeah, and I would add to that what I call non-standard reductions. So a contraction is perhaps like something standardized. But a non-standard reduction is like, I'm going to the store. I'm gonna head to the store, and I just kind of smush it all together. And so we have a couple of non-standard reductions that won't be taught, but you will hear them. And so those things tend to get acquired last as well.
One of my favorite non-standard reductions is going to turning into gonna.
And
I think that particularly North American speakers say gonna so often that I'm observing in people learning the language that they'll read going to on a page and say gonna, because that's just a muscular reaction they have. They're like, ooh, it's a little bit like me learning a language, and every time I come across 2 R's in Spanish, I'm like so
Yay!
excited.
Yay!
To show my right. These sort of contextual learning details, these gonna is a great one. I think that, you can correct me if you're wrong. I think that an element of casual speech, especially in North American English, there's almost there are very few situations where making something casual is bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, even in professional situations, I would expect to hear people say, yeah, we're going to do this, right? Or, yeah, we have to, as opposed to we have to, right? I would expect to hear those seemingly casual usages, but they're so ubiquitous, they're so common that they just happen in all kinds of situations, right?
Yeah, agreed. So those are something, those are a pattern that can show you to be a very confident and comfortable communicator um, in English. Let's see, are there any other patterns that really I think are worth investing energy in and worth learning?
Hmm. I think we hit my favorites.
I do too.
We
I think
hit my favorites.
oh, this is a pattern. This is a pattern. That if you're learning sort of a North American English in the workplace, I think this is going to help out. You may have encountered kind of upward inflections and downward inflections. And it may have been communicated to you at some point that questions go up and that statements go down. But in North America, if it's a yes or no question or something that you want to sort of a yes or no response from, yeah, like, are you going to finish that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am going to finish that. Yeah.
fine. Yeah, then that'll go up. But if it's a question that has a more complex answer, and you can usually spot these because they have words like when and where and why and how, you can treat that exactly like you would a statement and have that sort of finish in a downward. When are we leaving for the store? When are you going to finish that? So
That's a really great tip.
Yeah. Pattern.
Yeah, I really like that pattern. Because we also do tiny little lifts sometimes mid-thought, like where you would write a comma, right? And so
yes, we do.
Kind of breaking open your perception of where pitch can move and how would be useful.
Yes, yes, yes. Explode what you physically understand about pitch and rebuild it.
Yes.
But then again, that's good advice for any sort of learning process. Every once in a while, it's good practice habitually to explode everything you understand, to dust it all off, put it back together. And I know what you're thinking, Eliza, Josh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But it will be really useful to you because in putting back together sort of fundamental understandings that you have about language, you'll shake things up and rediscover skills that you've forgotten about. You'll shine things off and re-find really useful tools. So it's a good use of your time and energy.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well,
perfect.
I think we have really, we said we weren't going to run down the rabbit hole.
We did a little bit.
We did a little.
It's okay. It's okay.
Lovely. We will be back same time, same channel next week and answering more of your questions. And Josh, any final thoughts? No, just keep practicing a little bit a day, and practice builds confidence. Absolutely. We'll see you next Friday. See you next Friday. Bye.